We'll make sure we're all facing right. Yes, we are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am extremely excited for our topic tonight. We are going to be talking about PTSD, depression, and getting help. And we have a wonderful guest. Mark Ross is joining me. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time today to come
Thank
on
you.
here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mama, for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Mark Ross is a Marine Corps veteran, a mental health advocate, and the host of Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. After going through trauma in boot camp and silently battling PTSD, depression, and suicidal thoughts for years, Mark had a conversation with a fellow veteran that changed everything. That moment opened the door to counseling, healing, and growth, and now Mark uses his voice to help others do the same. He is also the host of Soldier Stories, where he highlights veterans and the organizations that support them. And beyond the mic, he works as a fatherhood facilitator, leading groups for incarcerated dads working to reconnect with their kids. I am super honored to have him here to talk about mental health, healing after trauma, and what it looks like to stop suffering in silence. You'll know that's something that I am really passionate about. I do have some social links for y'all to connect if you're looking to connect with Mark. I've got a couple of YouTube channels, a Facebook channel, and also an email. And I apologize if you can hear my dogs in the background. There must be a squirrel or something, but
Okay.
but there you go. You can connect with him on any of those. They should be posted now, so feel free to do that. And again, Mark, thank you so much just for taking the time to join us here today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. I love to come on, platforms such as yours and have good conversation and talk about how important mental health is. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, that is what we are here for, most definitely. We do have a
Indeed.
question queue open. If y'all have any questions for Mark, feel free to pop them into the chat and exclamation point Q, put them into the chat. We'll make sure to get to them while we're here. Again, our topic tonight is all about PTSD, depression, suicidal ideation, and getting help, especially for veterans. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to get those questions in there. But before we kind of get into maybe the live questions, Mark, I would love if you could just share a little about what led you to sharing your own story.
Yeah, uh, like she said, ladies and gentlemen, uh, I am a Marine Corps veteran, and I served 4 years in the Marines. Um, my mental health started to, I guess, change, if you will, uh, in the spring of '92. I don't want to reveal my age. Well, I could reveal my age. I'm 55. I'll be 56 in August. Um, I got out of the Marine Corps in 1991. I was 21 at the time. Uh, and in spring of '92 is when I started to exhibit nightmares. It will come every now and again, right? And I can remember this. I would have just simple, regular dreams, and all of a sudden, I'm fighting for my life.
Mm,
I'm fighting for my life. I'm in my military clothes, hat, gun, bayonet. I mean, I'm in the shit. To be blunt, I'm in it, and I'm fighting for my life. And I before I die, I wake up screaming, and this would go on maybe once a week,
mm,
maybe. And from once a week, it started to become every day. And this would go on for years. I would have these dreams. I would be so afraid of going to sleep because I knew what was coming. And so I drank myself to sleep a lot.
mm.
And I noticed that instead of having one problem, I was starting to have two because my drinking started to spiral out of control. Uh, my outlook on life started to really deteriorate because I felt like I was struggling alone. I didn't have the strength to get out and talk to people about what was going on with me because I feared a bad reaction from them. I couldn't go, I didn't feel strong enough to go to my family. I was too ashamed to go to my friends. So I suffered in silence,
Mhm.
and I did that for a long time, and I really had some low key crash out moments because there were times that I really wanted to just take myself out because with I couldn't deal with the dreams. I couldn't deal with the shame. I couldn't deal with the fear of admitting that something was wrong with me. I had a daughter at the time, and I told my daughters, she was a baby at the time, and the only reason why I think I'm still alive is because of her. I wanted to fight for my daughter, uh, and I will say that probably like she saved my life,
Yeah.
especially in my 20s and 30s. So fast forward, I'm working at this job as a corrections officer here in town, and a coworker of mine who was also a veteran, he told me about getting help and learning more about this thing called PTSD because I didn't know what PTSD was at the time. It really wasn't a thing.
Yeah. It was very
PTSD
new.
just wasn't something that people knew about back in the 90s and the 2000s. So he tells me, maybe you should go check yourself out because if you're dealing with these symptoms, it'll be good for you to talk to somebody about it. And reluctantly, I did because I wasn't going to do it. Because again, I'm thinking, I'm a big bad guy. I can figure it out by myself. No, I couldn't.
Mhm.
I was losing that battle. So I went, and that changed my life forever. Learning about PTSD, learning about mental health, and also learning that other people were dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with. It was like an epiphany for me because I
Yeah.
thought that I was alone on an island, you know, screaming for help and nobody could hear me. I realized that other people were going through the same thing that I was going through. People were feeling the same way that I was feeling. They too felt that they were alone. So, in my brilliance, I guess, I figured we have a lot of people out here suffering in silence. Nobody knows what's going on with them. Nobody gives a shit.
Mhm.
They're too afraid to admit to people because they are afraid of rejection. And on a side note, 22 veterans take their lives every day. That's food for thought, y'all. 22 a day. That's the magic number. But anyway, I I use my knowledge of what I witnessed and what I went through to create this platform called the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross to talk with people that are dealing with mental health issues and let them know that it's okay to not be okay. But we have to do something about what we're dealing with, and we can't keep hiding in the shadows. Hiding isn't going to get our situation better.
Mhm.
We have to speak up and speak out on it, regardless of how people feel, regardless of how people may judge us. Who gives a damn? This is our lives, and we have to take that back. And the only way that we can do it, sister, is to speak up
Yeah.
and go out and do something. And that's what I
Wholeheartedly
did.
agree. Absolutely agree. And it's nice to kind of have that feeling of, oh, I talked to someone and it made this huge impact on me, and then the realization of I could do that for other people. That's such a it's because that's what happened to me. It was like, oh, talking to these people really helped me
Mhm.
getting my life sorted out. Not that my life is totally sorted out because it never is going to be. Like there's always work to be done, right? But at the
Always,
same
always.
time, like I wasn't alone, and it was so sudden that I wasn't alone. And having that moment of like, oh, I'm okay. Like I'm going to make it through. And then also later having that moment of I could help other people be okay too just by talking about what I've been through. It's really a cool feeling, or it was for me. It was such a cool feeling for me to have that
Mm,
realization of like, oh, I can make an impact, like truly make an impact in other people's lives just by
mm,
sharing what I've been through. So I
mhm,
love hearing that. I love hearing that from other people too because it's been my experience, And as long as it's not only my experience, then I guess I'm right.
And again, you're on the right path as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed.
So we've got a couple of comments in the chat. Rose is here. Hi, Rose. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Rose.
She said, I heard that Mark's daughter saved him. This might seem silly, but my plants saved me because they're basically my kids. I don't have human nor animal kids. Rose, do you know, I don't know if I've shared this with you before. Do you know what my favorite poem is? Because one of my very favorite poems, I think I even have it as a command on Twitch. Actually, let me see if I do. Yes, there's a link to it right there. One of my very favorite poems is written by Hannah Danes, and it's called Don't Kill Yourself Today. And the whole concept of that poem is find a little reason not to kill yourself, because that plant's going to die if I don't water it. Because and it's things like Starbucks is coming out with a new Frappuccino flavor, and you want to finish your shampoo and conditioner at the same time for once in your life. Like all these little things. And it just goes on of like, yes, okay, people are going to be sad. Your mom's going to be sad. People will miss you. All these things. It's all the things you've already heard. But even if it's something small, like your plants, if it's meaningful enough to you to keep you here, then it's meaningful enough.
Whatever works.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep moving. Stay living.
Yep.
Stay
100%.
living.
And then Rose's other question mark is a great one. It says, Mark, do you have a family member? Oh, do you or a family member or friend do any crafts like crocheting, knitting, wood burning, or drawing? We had someone say wood burning one time. I thought that was really interesting, but I love that. So what crafts or hobbies do you have?
Well, I'm sorry, Rose, but I don't do any of the above. But hobbies, I do like to work out. I do like to go for walks. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I have to take advantage of this nice weather that we have, because after October, it will not be so nice. So I am out walking. Yeah, I like to work out. I like horror movies. I don't know if that could be a hobby, but I like movies. I love movies. So movies, working out. I like swimming. And I like cigars.
Oh, that's nice. Do you have a favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie? Ooh, The Howling.
Okay.
That's an old school horror.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up, because I don't know if I've seen that one.
The werewolf movie. That was one of my that was, I think, my fave. In terms of that. Oh, and Sinners.
I've heard that's good. And also it is playing at a drive-in movie theater here that is in the middle of nowhere. And we drove by it. We went on a family vacation just recently. We drove by it on the way to this family vacation, and my dad was in the car and he goes, "Oh, it'd be real fucked up to go see it there." Because it is in the middle of nowhere.
What? Yeah. Sinners is an awesome movie.
Yeah, I've heard. Okay, I'll have to watch it now for sure, because I've heard it from multiple people now that it's a great one. So, you know what movie we were talking about just the other day was? Do you remember the movie The Leprechaun? That is
gold. Yes.
I watched that movie when I was young. It came out in like the 90s. I watched that movie when I was young. This was one of the scariest things I had ever seen. I looked it up the other day. There's like 10 of them. I had no idea there were like 10 Leprechaun movies. I only ever saw the first one.
Yeah, you're right. Like 10 of those. Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's let's see.
A bunch.
The first one came out in 1993. Terrible, but it has Jennifer Aniston in it, which is great.
I think that was her first movie.
Oh, was it? I mean, she was real young, so entirely possible. But there you go. There's a few horror movies. So you got all this stuff that you're doing as far as swimming and your podcasts and working out and smoking cigars and going to see horror movies and all of that. How do you balance that with any work that you do and also just taking care of your own well-being?
Well, I'm retired.
Nice. Congrats.
So I am. I was able to call it a wrap the end of 24. So yeah.
So recent.
So there's that.
So how's
Yeah.
that going? How's it going? Less than a year later.
Actually, at the end of 23. I'm sorry,
Oh,
the end of
okay.
23.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I like it for the most part, but I do miss getting up and getting, dressed and looking professional to
Yeah.
do some work. But yeah, I do I do enjoy waking up in the morning and not worrying about punching a clock, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you've got a good balance right now when it comes to taking care of yourself and getting things done that you want to work on and get done?
Yeah, I have more time to do things around the house, go to the gym when I feel like it. I usually go in the morning, so I'm kind of an early bird, so
Yeah.
I the gym in the morning and when I can. Otherwise, I'm just up doing stuff around the house. My wife always tells me to sit my behind down, but I have trouble with that. So
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. I was just talking, so my oldest, we were watching, I don't even remember what movie we were watching, just the other day, and he was like, "Oh, Mom, you almost sat through a whole movie without getting up." And I was like, "Almost," but I couldn't do it. I
I
just
watch those
can't do
things.
it. I just get up. I just get up and do it. Get up and do other stuff. There's just, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to just sit.
I get it. I understand.
Now you like horror. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
True crime. You know, a true crime story or movie.
Oh, either.
Uh, my wife is into these crime shows. I was never really a fan of these crime shows, but I will say this though. I'm going back in time with this one. I was into New York Undercover.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a hot show, man.
I don't remember
Or
that one. I'm gonna look it up though.
New York Undercover, man. That was a dope show. It was only for a couple of years, but it
Oh.
was dope.
Oh, now this says it went until 2024.
New York Undercover,
Mm-hmm.
the series.
Says it started in
Mhm.
1995.
Yeah, yeah.
They must have rebooted it at some point because a lot of these are like until 1999. Maybe they did a new one that you need to check out. Oh,
Maybe.
interesting. Okay, well I'll have to give that one a look because I haven't seen that one yet. But I love true crime documentaries, true crime or even just crime shows like Criminal Minds.
Mm,
Fantastic show.
yeah, yeah.
And I was just having a conversation with one of our community members, Frost, about NCIS versus Criminal Minds, and he was trying to compare the two, and I was like, no, there's no comparison.
Oh, you can't.
You can't
Different.
do
Yeah.
that.
Apples and oranges, dude.
Yes. Oh, Rose says Scream is my favorite. It's based on a true story. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but it was good.
Right. Oh, yeah. The first two were really good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now,
Yeah. Then it got a little predictable
yeah.
after the third and the fourth yeah.
Yep. Well, that's why like the new Final Destination movie that's coming out or that is out, I'm like, how different can it be? Now we all know what's going to happen. Come on.
Right. Right. Everybody's gonna die except one or two people.
Yes, cuz
It's just hot.
they have to keep it going.
Yeah. Oh,
For sure.
gee.
Bite Mark says if you like comedy with your horror, my favorites are Cabin in the Woods and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And if you prefer not funny, my favorite is The Others. Ooh, The Others is good for sure.
The
hmm
is that a M Night Shyamalan movie?
I don't think it was. Let me see. It was a while back. Uh, had Nicole Kidman in it, who I just absolutely adore. It was not M. Night Shyamalan. It was Alejandro
Okay.
Amenabar.
I'm thinking of something.
Yeah.
Thinking of something.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a
Yeah.
good one though.
Mhm,
Now, getting to our topic tonight. So we wandered around a little bit, but you've talked about going through traumatic experiences in boot camp, but that your PTSD didn't really show up until after you got out of the military. So what was that time for you like, and when did you realize that something wasn't right? Because it's one thing to have bad dreams, it's another to go, okay, this is something that requires outside help. What was that like for you?
What was it like? When did I figure out that something was wrong?
Yeah.
Uh, I would say maybe around the summer of 92,
Mm,
because like I said, the dreams, it became more intense and they were becoming more frequently.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and at the time, I was 22 years old, 20 going on 23. You know, I'm a young dude and I still act like I got it all figured out. You know what I mean? I was in that I can figure it out type of stage in my life, and I I knew something wasn't right.
Mm,
But again, I ran from that. I hid it. I didn't want to admit to myself, really admit that, hey bro, something ain't right here, man. You can't sleep. You're drinking more. You're losing perspective on life. You gotta do something. That, and I will admit that never crossed my mind. It only crossed my mind when I went to get help.
yeah.
And that was 2012, 2013, somewhere around that time frame of life. So I suffered for a long period of time,
Yeah.
and I tried to hide it and act like everything was cool, but it wasn't. You know, I self-medicated.
Mm,
You know, I hid in fear and I suffered in silence. I tried to live life as normal as I thought I could do, but no, in some areas of my life, it was showing.
yeah.
It was showing, and I didn't care. I didn't care. You know, uh, like I said, my drinking was heavier, and I didn't want to be here,
Mm,
and I felt that way often. Like, I don't want to be here. I can't. I couldn't adapt to how life was as a civilian because I was never prepared for it.
mm-hmm.
I was drilled Marine Corps for 4 years. I was institution. I use the phrase institutionalized now because I was. I bit the apple. I
Mm-hmm.
became immersed in Marine Corps life. So when I separated from the military, coming back to being a civilian, just regular old Mark, I couldn't identify with just being me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm Corporal Mark Ross, United States Marine Corps. I earned that title. I earned that rank. So for me to go from something proud and purposeful to just being a regular old schmo, that was unacceptable. That was unacceptable. And yeah, I suffered.
Yeah. I know it sounds like
I suffered.
2013 was a long time ago, but in terms of uh, mental health and how open people are talking about it, I can tell you from my experiences that even in 2012, 2013, people still didn't talk about it. It still wasn't
No,
like it still wasn't a thing. I'm
nope,
so glad that today's generations are able to say like they're naming what they're dealing with and they're really
yeah,
being more open about it, and especially with going to therapy and everything. But even just 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, especially 15, 20 years ago, and you go back even further, and not only was it not talked about before then, but it was you were you had this like sense of shame whenever you had to admit to going through anything. So just the fact that
Yeah.
you went and got that help in 2013 was really a good move. And it sucks that you had to deal with it for so long, though, without getting that help. Do you wish that you had gotten help sooner? Do you think that it would have changed your life significantly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I can't blame myself or beat myself
Yeah.
up for not doing it.
Hmm.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I knew, you know, I knew that the thoughts that were going through my mind was messed up.
Hmm.
I'm glad that I was able to not follow through on it for most of the time. Um, but I can tell you there were moments in my life where I was out of control, and I I I got so drunk many times, and I drove.
Mm.
I can tell you that there were many times that I didn't even know how I got home. I came to my senses in the parking lot of my apartment. Like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I wanted out.
Hmm.
I wanted out, and I couldn't do it myself, so I wanted somebody else to do it for me. Let me get drunk as hell. Let me go party. Then my goodbyes.
Mm.
And I would wake up in my car, like, how did I get here? So, well, let's try it again.
Yeah.
So, I'm out again. You
Hmm.
know, I wake up in my car. How did I get here?
Yeah.
It's only God, I guess.
Mm.
God, God has other plans for me because I was trying to check out,
Hmm.
and there should not. I'm telling you, there should be no way in the world that I could have made it home. How drunk I used to get, and what I used. It was
Yeah.
only God, because I'm telling you, I was trying to exit stage right, out,
Hmm.
done, drink straight liquor till I couldn't drink anymore. I got my drunk ass in my car and I drove home. How I made it home, I'm telling you, I have no idea, but it can only be from God, because there should have been no way that I could drive, stop at a red light, keep going when I,
Yeah. Sounds like it was a miracle that you made it home and without injury to yourself or others. I mean, that's
that
and
part.
repeatedly, like, one time it happening is like, oh, okay, that was woo, made it through. But repeatedly,
I'm
it's
telling
just
you,
that pattern is really tough.
yeah, it was a pattern,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to check out.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm tired.
Hmm.
Time to go.
So how did you know the difference between this is PTSD versus I'm an alcoholic versus I'm stressed out versus I'm burned out? How could you identify that it was PTSD?
The hypervigilance, the
Mm.
dreams, uh, my the temper. I always had a little bit of temper, but after the Marines, my temper was double. I was easily set off. Uh, I was the type of person that would present to you as a cool, calm, and collected person until I wasn't cool, calm, and collected.
Mhm.
I'm cool until I'm not cool. When I'm not cool, you have another person in front of you. Don't get me to be that other person.
Yeah.
uh, I knew it was military related because I never experienced that before in my life until after my tour duty in the Marines. And as I said, the dreams that I had were always military related.
Yeah.
always. The way that I moved, the way that I approached situations was not the old me. So when my coworker presented me the option, to go get help and told me to, do some research on PTSD, I told him, like, dude, everything that I researched, it that was me.
Yeah.
That was me. So he said, yeah, get your ass on to the VA hospital, man, pronto.
Mm-hmm. And
So
were they immediately like, yeah, that's what's going on?
yeah,
Like easy,
yeah,
easy, yes.
yeah, yeah. I went to the VA and I was able to speak to a social worker, and I told her how I was feeling. I told her everything. Um, she got me linked up with a psychologist probably within the next 2 weeks, and I met with her. Her name was Dr. Jens. Shout out to Dr. Jens. She made me feel, appreciated. She made
Yeah.
me feel uh, valuable. I think that is one of the missing links for veterans like myself. We lose our sense of value
Mm,
when we become civilians because we feel like we lost our purpose. So when we lose our purpose and we lose our value, what you see now is a shell of who we were.
mm-hmm.
You don't see the pain. You see what we want you to see. We're not going to show you what's inside of us because that could scare people away, and we don't want to scare you away, but we don't want you in our business neither unless we let you in it.
Right. Do you think a lot of folks still have some significant misunderstandings about PTSD or veterans' mental health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, like I told you earlier, 22 a day.
Mm-hmm.
That should say it all right there.
Yeah.
22 a day. So yeah, we're very much misunderstood. Now, are things being done to help people like myself? Absolutely. Is there work that still needs to be done? Absolutely. Because 22 a day is way too many.
That is way too many.
Way too
Absolutely.
many. Okay.
Yeah.
It needs to be zero.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that military culture impacts how folks deal with mental illness? And that's whether they're still in the military or right after they got out or anything like that. Do you think that still impacts it?
For many, I would say yeah. Uh, some people stay in it because they love it.
Mm-hmm.
Others get out because they're tired of it.
Mm.
They had their fill. And but it goes for me to say this as well. There hasn't been any program or programs to help veterans transition to from military life to civilian life.
Yeah.
It was just, especially back in my day, it was, we're here, we're turning in our gear, we're signing paperwork, saying, hey, I'm opting out. I don't want to re-enlist for another 4 years or a 2 year extension. And that was it.
Yeah.
I had to pack my clothes in my car and drive home from North Carolina to Wisconsin. That was it. You're done after 4 years. Done.
They just feel like it's not their responsibility to help you after that. You didn't sign
Hey,
up
hey,
again, so why would we keep helping you?
so pretty much,
Mm,
pretty much. That was it. Done. I'm on the road
yeah, that's
for the
rough.
last time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what kind of therapy or treatment helped you most?
I went through uh, group There are therapy sessions. Uh, I was at an inpatient facility at the VA grounds for 90 days. I did a 90-day inpatient stay, and during that time, we, myself and other veterans, we went through classes with doctors there who really sat down and talked to us about how to deal with our emotions,
Mm,
how to deal with our feelings. And that helped me navigate how to communicate with people, how to not overreact when people do things or say things that I may find disrespectful, right? Because again, I'm military. The way that I view the world and with how I approach scenarios is different from how you do.
right.
Your experiences are not mine. So I had to utilize what the doctors were teaching us and really speak with other veterans about moving correctly.
Mm,
I had to learn how to move correctly. And what do I mean by that? I had to watch what I say to people, and I also had to watch who was in my circle.
mhm.
If I had somebody in my circle that I felt was not beneficial to me, he or she will no longer be in my circle because I'm trying to move correctly. I'm trying to move to grow, to be better, to heal. I can grow and heal when I have people that's trying to hold me down like a crab in a barrel. You know what I mean? So I had to adjust my mindset to focus not only on myself and my growth and my healing, but I had to also look at who was in my circle.
Yeah.
Who would I allow in my circle? And who do I need to get rid of from my circle? I don't give a damn how many people I had to get rid of or distance myself from,
Mhm.
but it was going to get done because I didn't come this far just to get this far. You
Yeah.
dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot actually, as far as like your social media consumption goes. And whenever you open up, we've had folks who come on and been like, yeah, Twitter's a cesspool or whatever. And I'm like, I open up my Twitter and it's a place of positivity because I am so careful about who I interact with, who I follow, and who I allow to follow me. And it's one of those things like not all of them you have to be super careful with, but you have to curate your circle. And that's on online and in person too. Like sometimes
Yeah.
you're going to have to interact with certain people if it's somebody at your work or whatever. You can't always
Yep.
cut someone out. But when it comes
Indeed.
to friends and even family members, when it comes to friends and family members, that's your choice. You are making a choice to have that person in your life, and you don't have to stick with that choice once you've made it.
Mm.
So, or
You
once
can
it
love
was
them from
made
a
for you.
distance. Love them from a distance, as I say.
Yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
What was the hardest part for you about starting counseling? And then also, what helped you stick with it?
Swallowing my pride.
Mm,
Swallowing my pride and really asking myself, is this what I want to do? I said, absolutely.
yeah.
Because I can't live how I was living. I can't continue to live how I was living. Uh, so, like I said, once I went and spoke with the social worker, that really it created a different angle to look at out of from life because, like I said, I kept everything under the rug. I tried to hide it. I even distanced myself from everybody, and I just stayed to myself and I drank. Like I said, I self medicated. I used alcohol and partying as my outlet. You know, once I realized that I was making myself worse by doing those dangerous activities, I really learned to swallow my pride and say,
Mhm.
Mark, you are in a position now where you can really make some positive change in your life. Stop hiding, stop resisting, and go for it.
Yeah.
Just go for it, man. Don't be scared. You don't have to hide anymore. So that's what made me do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And helped you stick
Yeah.
with it. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Bite Mark says I have
Absolutely.
more than one Reddit account because sometimes I can handle the real world and sometimes I can't. And that, yeah, that's part of that curating your experience, right? Although I will say my Reddit account is where I go to read other people's drama. So it's like the one social media that I have that isn't super positive all the time because I do go on all the like AITA Reddits and everything and read other people's drama because it's like I just need to see other people's lives for a second.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
but there's
Okay.
also lots of
Okay.
cute puppies on there, so there's that. But yeah, you
Okay.
gotta curate your experience, and if that means having more than one account and you sign into one account instead of the other one, then that's what you gotta do. You're protecting your
Indeed.
peace, and that's valid.
In- Amen. Indeed.
Are there things that made your symptoms worse before they got better while you were in therapy?
Uh, I used to call. Well, I got this phrase from an older gentleman that I met in my inpatient days. He referred to this as stinking thinking. And he said that when you have those negative thoughts, those intrusive thoughts come into your head and you let it consume you, I call that stinking thinking. And you have to recognize when your mind is going in that direction. So when I realize that my mind is going left, so to speak, and I'm getting into that stinking thinking, I'm letting the stinking thinking take control of my mind, and I have to catch myself and catch what I'm doing and just allow myself to have those thoughts just come in and out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and really don't give it any power.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love the
don't.
there's a phrase that it's I don't remember the exact phrase, but it's something like your first thought is what you've been conditioned to think or raised to think or what you've seen other people think. Your second thought is what actually defines you. And so whenever you
Mm,
have those thoughts of like, oh, that's, I'm an awful person or I'm so stupid or whatever. It's like, okay,
mhm.
you've been conditioned to think that that was your first thought. How do you combat that with the second thought? And it's like, no, I made a mistake. That was a mistake. And it's
That
okay.
was a mistake.
Everybody makes mistakes. And if you can get
Yeah,
past that first initial thought, that's what really gets that mindset into the right place. It doesn't mean you're never going to have those thoughts. Those thoughts are still going to be there. But yeah,
yeah.
no, I,
Don't
I
give it
like the
power.
stinking thinking part of that. I think that's a good way to kind of phrase it.
Yeah, because it's true. It's
Mhm.
stinking thinking.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh like you did when he told me about his catchphrase. It's like, "Can I borrow that?" You
Yes.
know,
Yes. I love
that's
that.
that's 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 some real stuff right there.
Yep.
Thinking, and we all have it.
Hmm.
It's just what do you recognize when your thoughts are going left and you let that stinking thinking consume your thoughts?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, you just have to realize when it's happening and just readjust.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Do you still deal with triggers in your everyday life, or is that something that you dealt with mostly at the beginning and not so much now?
Triggers for me uh, were being in crowds.
Mm.
Uh, that was a big trigger for me. My anxiety would shoot through the roof. Another trigger would be driving in front of a truck, not in front, but besides a truck, because back in the when I was in the military, I was driving home from North Carolina and I fell asleep behind the wheel, and I woke up next to a semi truck, and I had to swerve
Yeah.
to catch myself. And what was wild about that experience is that I was driving towards a bridge when I was swerving, you know.
Oh,
So yeah, so from that point on, I would get very anxious when I drive around trucks. Um, but being around crowds was major. Uh, I couldn't be in settings where it was packed.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I have to sit facing if we're in a restaurant or something, I have to face the exit,
Yeah.
or I have to sit in an area where I can see everybody.
Yep.
You know, yeah, I have to see where everybody is.
Or that
And
hypervigilance.
right, right, right. But the biggest trigger for me was crowds,
Mm.
uh, and angry people. That was a trigger for me
Mm.
too. Angry people, because when I was in boot camp, all of my drill instructors, they gave me hell, and they were always angry at me. So uh, being around angry people, that's a trigger for me too.
Yeah. Do you still deal
Yeah.
with those, or how did you get over them?
Uh, as I grew older, and I had to really do some reflection, and through counseling, through talking with people, it really gave me the strength to embrace being around people.
Mm.
I still have my moments, but I talk to it's like I have conversations with myself, and I just reassure myself that I'm okay. That like a few months ago, my wife and I went to a concert, and it was packed, it was crowded, whatever. But I had to tell myself a few times during that time, and I never told her this, that I'm okay. You're okay. We came here to see these performers sing. They're doing a great job. My wife is loving it. I'm loving it. Stay in the moment.
Mm.
Stay in the moment. That's what I tell myself. Stay in the moment.
I love that.
So,
I heard one time one of my guests, so we used to say that he grounded himself by saying, "My left foot is here and my right foot is now." And it's very much like, I am here, I am right now, and this is okay.
yes,
It is okay to be right here. And like just
yes.
kind of like reassuring yourself that you are okay, and it is okay. And
Mhm.
I've used that. I've used that. My left foot is here, my right foot is now. So many times since I heard that from him, because it was just like so simple. It's so simple. It's such a simple little thing. Are there any things of just like, you said the stinking thinking and those kinds of things. Are there any other little catchphrases that have really caught with you?
Uh, One catchphrase that I often say is that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
I say that often during my interviews on my podcast. So yeah, and it's true. It is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to not be okay, because what you're doing is you're acknowledging that there's something going on with you that's beyond you, right? But you have the power to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
You do. Either get help, recognize that something's going on, and do that self-talk, right? Talk yourself off the ledge. Give yourself reasons to keep moving. It's okay to not be okay, but do something about it.
Yeah. That's a
Mhm.
really powerful one. Most definitely.
I
What?
made it up myself.
I think it's great. It's a good one. You should be getting money for that one.
That's
So,
funny.
what does healing for you look like? Is it being cured or is it more about management?
Healing, I think I think you I think it could be both. I I don't I don't think that healing, depending on, your issue, uh, because I don't have the nightmares hardly as often as I used to.
Mhm.
You know, do I have bad dreams? Absolutely. But do I have military related dreams? No. Uh, because I had to learn as I grew older that I'm not in North Carolina anymore. I'm not wearing my fatigues anymore. I'm
Mhm.
not going to I'm not reporting for duty. You know what I mean? I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
And do I still deal with anxiety and you know, yeah, I still deal with that. Healing is a process though. You know what I mean? So it's something that I guess one can learn to get comfortable with.
Mhm.
But will it go away? I don't know. I I I I, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if it would ever go away, but it would get manageable.
Yeah.
I can learn how to identify it when I feel that stinking thinking come in my head, right? Uh, I don't have the urge to drink when I'm under high anxiety. You know, uh, I try to do other things,
Mhm.
right? I try to stay in the moment. Or if I'm feeling a little anxious, I may, go to my basement and watch a movie, do something fun, do something that I like, right? I don't depend on the bottle anymore. I don't depend on it. It's over for that.
Yeah.
So in that regard, oh, that's conquered. Done.
I like that term though. I like the term of like I've conquered that instead of like are you cured? Are you all better? It's like well I've conquered what I needed to conquer related to that. I love that
Yeah.
actually. That's really great.
Well, thank you. Because it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this comment from Bite Mark. She says, that's very similar to something my therapist told me. I am where my feet are. And ever since I sometimes close my eyes and feel where my feet are as a technique for keeping it together. Yeah. Sometimes and that works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. And that's okay. You gotta find what works. You gotta find what works for you. And the only way you're gonna find what works for you is to go through a bunch of different things and see what it is that helps.
Yes. Yes. Not everything is going to work for everybody. You're right. But find what does work.
Hmm.
Yeah. And stick with it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What advice do you have for family members or friends of someone who is either living with PTSD now or is already on their path to healing from it?
My advice would be this: if there's people in your life that are there for you and are genuinely caring for you and cheering for your progress, keep going for them. Keep going for yourself, keep going for those that care for you, and just understand, again, it's okay to not be okay. Just do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't hide in the shadows. Don't suffer in silence, because at the end of the day, it's not helping you it's not helping you at all. And I'm telling you all that are listening from someone that's been there. I've dealt with this stuff from 1992 to until now. So listen to me. Appreciate yourself. Know that you have value, even when nobody is telling you that you are valuable. Know that you are valuable. Know that you have worth, and take life one day at a time. For real. Take life one day at a time. It's okay to not be okay. Just do something about it.
Is there anything you wish friends or family had done differently whenever you were dealing with PTSD?
You know, when I told my family, their response was, "Why didn't you tell us sooner?"
Mm,
And I told them that I was afraid. I had a lot of shame. I was too ashamed to tell you all that I was dealing with some things that were beyond my control. And, you know, they showed me nothing but love and respect. So yeah, I wish I would have told them sooner.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to switch topics a little bit because I'm very, very curious about this, but it doesn't necessarily fit into our topic tonight. You facilitate groups for incarcerated fathers to help them maintain or build relationships with their kids. What is that work life or what is that work like, and how did you get involved with it?
Well, how I got involved in it was, long story short, uh, we had these fatherhood conferences here in Milwaukee every year. And I was curious about one that was going on this particular year. And I went, and I bumped into somebody that used to be an inmate because, again, I used to be a corrections officer.
Hmm.
I bumped into this guy that was there, and he used to be an inmate. And he was always a cool guy, talked a lot, but he was a cool guy. Turns out he was a part of this fatherhood movement. So he told me that, after he got out, he was fortunate enough to work for the for the state of Wisconsin, and he was commissioned to do this fatherhood project. And so the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative was born. Uh, it was him and a couple of other guys that started the Fatherhood Initiative. And part of the initiative was have fatherhood conferences every year. And during this time, they would have different vendors, uh, people from different agencies, come in and talk to them about uh, things that parents or fathers should know about, as far as parental rights, questions about child support, um, getting your driver's license reinstated, things like that. And he talked to me about engaging in this program, this fatherhood program for inmates, about being giving them the tools to be better dads. And I said, sign me up. I'm down with that. Put me in the game, coach. And he didn't have the program set up right away, so it took some time. And he told me, say, hey, just be patient. Once I get this paperwork all together, we're going to go to the jail and get this thing going. And when we did, everybody found it weird, that the dynamic that we had, because again, I was a guard,
Yeah.
he was the inmate. Now we're coming in with that guard inmate type of relationship. But I told him, I said, I don't look at you as the inmate. I look at you as the mentor. You're my mentor.
Yeah.
I'm learning from you because you're exposing me to something totally different,
Hmm.
right? We're both walking into the same place where I used to work, and he used to stay. So talk about how things work out in strange ways, you know? So he and I, we went to the jail, and we started uh, talking to the guys about fatherhood and about life as men, and how to approach your children in certain instances, and how to approach, the mothers of your children in certain instances, and just learn how to be better versions of yourselves, because at the end of the day, it's about your kids,
Hmm.
and you need to be there for your kids. So uh we did three we did three groups so far. We're going to be doing another one soon. And the, I guess the process, I mean, the times that I spent with talking to guys about fatherhood, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, because not only had not only did we affect people's lives, I think our lives were affected.
Hmm.
Our lives were affected because it made me look deeper into, what do I need to do to be a better father, even though my kids are grown. But still, I'm still their father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm still going to be there for them, and they're still going to need me at some point,
Hmm.
right? So what can I the question I ask myself is, what can I do uh, uh to be good for them, even as adults?
Yeah.
Because things change as they grow up, you know what I mean? So I have to I have to let them know that I'm here for you.
Hmm.
Just because you got older doesn't mean you don't need me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that's been my growth journey in terms of being a fatherhood facilitator. So
It sounds like a
yeah.
great program. And it sounds so my grandfather was a preacher, and he did groups. He would go to prisons and do church groups with the prisoners there. And I remember him talking about how impactful that was, not for them, but for him, and how
But
impacted
for
he was by their hearing their stories, and answering their questions and just talking to them and everything. And of course,
mm,
he impacted lives as well. But what I really
he-
remember is him talking about just, you're always learning. You're always learning from other people. You're always picking up things from other people. It doesn't matter what situation you're in, there is something
yes.
that you can learn. And
Oh,
he loved that work. I don't know if it was his like favorite work. His favorite work was probably some of the other missions that he did, but he really did love that work, probably more than his Sunday services. Uh,
that's
but
nice.
yeah, he really got a lot from that, I think. And it reminds me of that. So I appreciate you sharing that. I was very curious about it. I'm glad to hear that it's been a positive experience for you, because you're making a great difference in other people's lives, and for you to get something back, I think is only fair.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is, and I'm using it too.
Yeah, yeah. What is your favorite life hack?
What do you mean by a life hack?
So a life hack could be any tip or trick that helps some part of your life, whether that's like, I love journaling, or I make to-do lists, or I use this specific phone app, or you bounce a battery before you use it to see if it's still good. Anything really. Freeze grapes to put in your wine so you don't melt your wine.
Well, I guess my life hack would be making breakfast in the morning.
Mm,
I'm a breakfast eater. I love breakfast, and that's my feel good
yeah,
hack right there.
makes your day.
Yeah,
That's
it
awesome.
does.
I'm the opposite. I am not really a breakfast person, but you know what's been helping me is the overnight oats, where you take the oats and you put them in a jar and you put them in your fridge the night before, because then I don't have
Mm,
to think about it. It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna go grab the thing and I'm gonna have this, and that's my breakfast. Because I am not a morning person. You said you're a morning person. I am not. I am the opposite of a morning person. I am very much a night owl. So, but
Oh,
yeah, like find
okay.
you got to find what works for you, and if breakfast is your thing, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, it is time for our magic moment of the stream. Oh, if you could have a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would you wave it for?
Ooh, now that is a good question. Uh, I guess I would change how people have negative view. I would change people's views or negative views about their thoughts about mental health,
Mm,
because a lot of people have negative connotations about mental health, and that's far from the truth. Uh, I mean, mental health is something that everybody in their lifetime would have an issue with, and it's not always bad.
hmm
Uh, and it is something that could be handled or dealt with properly. But it takes for the person to do the work,
Yeah.
to seek help. I'll say it again, do the work. And the more people can embrace mental health instead of shunning it, I think we could do better in our communities in terms of how the public at large views it.
hmm
Yeah. So I think so again for me, I would say I would eliminate people's negative views about mental health.
Absolutely.
Instead of looking at it that way, help out.
hmm Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we do have one more community question right now. And folks who are here, if you have any more questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. And we'll make sure that we ask them while we're here live. But I know Bite Mark has a question, and her question is, what is your favorite poem?
My favorite poem. You know, I don't know if I have a favorite poem.
Song?
Um, Psalm. Um, my favorite psalm is 91.
Okay.
Psalm 91. And that's a psalm of protection.
Let's see. It starts with the verse, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." That one?
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'll post that one in the chat. So if anybody wants to go check that one out, feel free to. But that is kind of the end of our official questions here. So, Mark, what I'll do is I will share your socials one more time so folks who want to connect with you can do so. And while I'm doing that, if there are any resources or anything you want to talk about, sites, anything you didn't get to cover, personal recommendations, talk about your own podcasts, I'll just turn this over to you for a second to do that while I share your socials.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would uh, like to the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross, uh, that podcast, and Soldier Stories podcast, both of my podcasts are on YouTube. Uh, I do them live and I edit them and then I present it on to the YouTube platform. Uh, if you want to reach me, if you have a story that you would like to share, you can reach me at speakyourtruthpc@gmail.com. That is speakyourtruthpc. It stands for podcast. It's all one word. Speakyourtruthpc@gmail.com. Uh, Soldier Stories podcast, as she mentioned earlier in the interview, it's for veterans. Okay, so if any veterans are out here listening to our interview and you would like to share your story, please hit me up. Same email address. Uh, I would be more than glad to share your stories, and just we have to do our part to help dispel the negative stigma of mental health. This is why we do what we do. I want to help. I want to do my part in reducing that number of 22 veterans a day. I want to do my part in bringing that number down, because that is insane. If you do the math, I'm not going to do the math. I want you to do the math. 22 a day times 365 days. That's a lot of people. We need to do the work to help bring that number down. So again, if you are a veteran or if you are an organization that helps veterans, I would love to have you on my show. I would love to speak with you on Soldier Stories podcast. If you guys are suffering from anything and you want to share your story, I would love to have you on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Email me, please. If you have a story you want to share, let's get it out. Let's speak your truth.
I love that. And it really does make a difference just sharing your stories. If you've got to share a story you want to share, absolutely reach out to Mark. Reach out to me. If you can't find his email for some reason, holler at me. I'll help get you connected and everything. But yeah, Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. Bite Mark says, I just want to say thanks so much for being here. I'll have to check out your podcast once I find some time. And y'all remember, engagement is key. When you go and check out his podcast, make sure you subscribe, make sure you give a couple of the videos a like, leave a comment on a couple of videos just saying hi, whatever it is. All of that is what helps that discoverability. So make sure that you are doing that whenever you go find him. And again, just thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your story today, Mark. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I really do. I appreciate this. And I love your platform, and I wish nothing but the best.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, give me just a second to disconnect with Mark offline, and I will be right back. Stick around.